That's what they have to say. I know they're getting rid of wards and banes.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge and Aeternum, where we talk about all things New World.
Yo, this dude is looking good these days. Have you noticed, like, Scott, like, when the game first came out, like, he was looking scraggly, tired, he had, like, bags under his eyes, he looked like 100 years old, and now he's, like, dressing nice, he's got a nice clean haircut, he always seems happy and chipper. I don't know if they're just doing well, or they got him on some good drugs, or what, but, you know, props to Scott.
With Patrick and Dave today, and we're going to talk about wards and banes.
Patrick looks very serious.
Show over. See you next time. Just kidding. But we are removing wards and banes. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Then what are you kidding about?
You know, high level, we want people to be able to enjoy our gear system and really...
Really? You want people to enjoy the game? Okay, cool. That's a good start.
Go for aspirational perks and perks that change their build. Whereas this felt a little bit too much like a chore, right? Like I had to get these to be competitive in certain modes, like mutations, or I had to get...
Is competitive a right? Well, maybe.
Get resilient to be competitive in PvP. And I think we want to sort of like reduce the amount of requirements.
Oh, okay. Resilience to be competitive in PvP, getting rid of resilience and opening up to like different perks. I can see it as being a good thing. Really, I want more aggressive perks though. Like I want like aggressive perks on my armor.
Acquired perks, and instead let people sort of experiment and try around with perks.
But what stinks is I worked really hard to get all these corrupted wards. You just going to take them away from me?
Yeah. Screw you, Scott. Since filming, this information has changed due to playtesting. Updated information. Ward perks will not remain in the game. Instead, they will be replaced by new perks that provide different utility, including health. A new perk that increases the player's max health. Okay.
Any gear you acquire in the future above gear score 625 will not have ward dropping, will not have resistance dropping, will not have resilient dropping. So the new gear you're going to get is going to be a lot more exciting because there's going to be more viable perks on it. And less perks that you don't really want to see on your gear. So Indestructible is unfortunately gone. I know that was the community's favorite perk, so very sad.
Yeah, I don't know
that one.
Unfortunately was the right word there, Patrick.
We're playing a sarc.
Okay, so Indestructible's gone. They're right. That is the most useless perk. It makes sure you don't have to repair your gear. Maybe there were some miserly merchants that were going around like, I can't believe I have to repair my gear. I need to get the Indestructible perk along with the luck perk and the fishing perk. It's super important. I don't know. That could have been amusing. But no, they said that like the new gears for once they raise the cap level up to 65 are not going to have the wards and banes. I wonder if that means that the gears that currently have wards and banes still will. Will they? Are we only getting rid of them moving forward? And if that is the case, will the new gears be, like, significant enough that getting new gears that don't have those perks are better than just keeping your old lower-level gears that do have them? Let's hope so.
Fantastic game right now for those not following along, but yes.
But I think that's an important thing, right? Like there's a couple perks we just thought, hey, these are never going to be viable. Yeah. Like people will never want this in gear. And I think those are now disappearing. So that you don't get that disappointment of getting a cool piece of gear with it.
You know, and it's worth mentioning, at one point they made sense when we were thinking about gear differently, you know, a couple years ago, but the game's evolved. We listened to the players, we're pushing in different directions, and it becomes less a thing.
Yeah, I mean, when they were a survival game, I feel like it would have made way more sense. Like, before they decided to be an MMO and they were a survival game. And it was just like, full loot, PvP, go wherever, do your thing. I feel like in that context, maybe the wards and banes would have made a lot more sense.
So what else you want to talk about, Patrick?
So, along with removing ward, resilient, and other perks, we're doing a broad perk rebalance. So there's a number of perks you're not going to see on that gear that is below gear score or above gear score 625 in the future. So we already talked about the wards and the resilience. Other perks will be going away. Some of the underperforming perks that we like but aren't really often selected by the community are going to be rebalanced to be more attractive choices. So I'm very excited about that. Then we're also going to be adjusting some of the currently overperforming perks.
What could that be? Okay, well, I have Resilient, Freedom, and Refreshing on, like, all of my gear. So it's not those. Maybe some of the Shirking perks could be getting updated. I could see that.
Perks, so things like Attunement, might see their cooldown increase slightly.
No! I just finally got Attunement gear. It was expensive. I had to save up a lot of money. Why would you do this to me? Why would you do this specifically to me?
Across the board, though, we're trying to make sure that the perks are finding that nice equilibrium where any perk is valuable in the game.
One other thing that I think is worth mentioning, as we remove certain perks from the game, we're also going to be adding some new perks to make more room, especially on armor, right, where we remove all the wards, Patrick?
Yeah, that's correct. So we're adding a few new perks with this perk rebalance. So, for example, touching on weapons specifically, there's only really been one good healing perk, and that's Blessed. We're adding a lot more healing perks that are conditional. So,
were there any though? Like, were there a lot of people like trying to get Blessed? Did I miss that phase?
So they add bonus healing, but based on certain conditions. So you might want to run a certain staff for a boss that might be very damage over time heavy, things like that. So we're trying to make sure that there's different gear for different situations, and it's all exciting and valuable to players.
Okay, I mean, that sounds good.
Yeah, as part of the compensation for this, we're talking about modifying how ward potions work, right?
Yeah. So one of the things, we do like this idea of a little bit of a prep loop, for expeditions or various, sort of higher level content. So making the ward potions, which are currently sort of like, used for specific battles, making them last the whole expedition, right? So like you go in prep with a potion, so it's much lighter weight, but it still gives you a little bit of that prep and bolsters the economy.
It bolsters the economy. I don't know what I think about that. Okay. So you have ward potions, surface value. I mean, I guess it's okay. You pop a potion, you're protected against certain types of damage for a certain amount of time. Makes sense. But if they last for the entire instance, then I mean, okay. So it's just like you got to make a potion before you go in, and then it lasts for the whole instance. Is there really a strong value in that? Like, is that really a benefit? I don't know. I feel kind of iffy about that. Because, I mean, if you just reduce the damage that they dealt to players instead of people drinking a potion, it would be the same experience, right? You mentioned, like, boosting the economy. I don't know. I guess I don't really keep track of what merchants are doing in New World, but is the ward potion market strong? Are we just trying not to upset the alchemists? Like, what is this? And if so, I think you failed, because if before they were managing to sell like 50 potions, now they're going to be selling like, I don't know, 4 or 5, because now potions last the whole instance. I don't know how that's going to work out.
Which I kind of like that, because it makes it gives us the ability to put more enemy types in an expedition. And it not feeling like, oh my God, I have to change my gear, as opposed to just taking a new potion. It's a little easier, to get through that.
A couple things more.
Do they stack?
Maybe the nerdy side, or people that are...
Do they stack? Will you buy several potions and then you like switch which one's currently active by drinking? That's interesting.
Really into this
Attribute
stuff. Yeah, I think on the attribute stuff, one of the things we do right now is that the attributes are asymmetric, right? So, there's ones where strength is more than dex, and then dex is more than strength. We're going to change that so that they're now equal, right? So that it's an equal split. And I think that will, be...
Yes. Okay, that is huge. That is huge. I don't know if you guys caught that, but weapons, they're going to be changing weapons. So, like, for example, rapier scales primarily off of dexterity and partially off of int. Spears, I believe, are primarily off of dexterity and secondarily off of strength. Sword and shield is inverted, primarily off of strength, then secondarily off of dex. Whereas currently the only weapon in the game is the greatsword, which scales equally off of both. And if they are changing it to where weapons scale equally off of both attributes, that's going to open up all sorts of different build potential. That is huge. That is going to be a massive improvement. Yes, good change. Big fan.
Be easier for players to understand, reduce some of the drop types and things like that. So I think that'll be pretty interesting.
Patrick, is any of this going to have an effect on your inventory?
Will. So there's a lot of perk.
Wait, let me double check. I think that's what he said. Maybe I am mistaken. Let me go back.
I think be easier for players to understand, reduce.
It not feeling like, oh my God, I have to change my gear.
You got to hear that again.
Just taking a new potion. It's a little easier, to get through that.
A couple things more on maybe the nerdy side, or people that are really into this stuff. Yeah, I think on the attribute stuff, one of the things we do right now is that the attributes are asymmetric, right? So, there's ones where strength is more than dex, and then dex is more than strength. We're going to change.
What is it? Like, they are referring to weapons there, right?
That so that they're now equal, right? So that it's an equal split. And I think that will I think be easier for players to understand, reduce some of the drop types and things like that. So I think that'll be pretty interesting.
Okay, now I'm
Patrick, is
confused.
any of
I
this
think
gonna
that's what he
have
meant, but I
effect on
could be
inventory?
totally wrong.
It will.
Somebody
There's
in the
a lot of
comments,
mods
like, tell me if
right
I'm
now for
totally
crafting
off on
certain,
that.
attribute bonuses that will be going away. The aim there is to streamline crafting and also make you manage far fewer perk mods. If you look in my inventory right now, I've probably got a couple hundred perk mods just sitting there. The goal there is to reduce that number significantly so you're crafting things that are more meaningful.
I'm with you on that. That's there's so many, it's hard to even get through them all when you're looking for some.
Yeah.
So overall, I think this is going to be a pretty massive change to the game and have a big impact. I'm pretty excited about it. But is there anything else either of you want to add?
No, I think this is going to be a really nice change, and I think Katie mentioned in our Q&A, like what's nice about this is it was really spurred by a lot of customer sentiment, right? Like I think players have been talking about how annoying Banes can be, especially when we had a couple expeditions that had multiple family types. That's what really brought it to the forefront. And I think while we were looking at that, we made some changes in Imperium Forge to require only one set, but at the same time, while we were doing that, we're like, what is really the value of this? And like, are players enjoying it? And it made us take a hard look at it.
There is just one more thing I thought of in the middle of this conversation that we can mention is it's also going to allow us to balance the expeditions and the mutations more toward a common thing and not assume people have these wards or don't have them. So I think that's going to create different builds coming in that are going to make the gameplay more interesting and more varied.
And hopefully a little less of, hey, link gear before I let you in my group. I think that's another big goal here.
Yeah, I think if you're, if the perks are much more...
Okay, you're not going to get rid of that. You think that's why people have to link? You're not going to get rid of that.
Strong for expeditions, then it's going to be your gear score speaks volumes, and then it's your play style is going to be the differentiator.
That's exactly right? Like in a theoretical world, like we're never going to have
very
this perk
theoretical,
time,
super theoretical.
Every perk is just as viable as every other. It doesn't matter exactly which perks you have, just that you have,
good luck achieving that balance, buddy.
Way you're going to have perks that support that versus someone else. I think that'll be that's the dream space. We'll see. And we're going to need everyone who's
very
watching,
much a dream space.
Help getting there. Pretty exciting. All right, well, I think that's all we got for today. Thanks, Patrick and Dave, and thanks everyone for watching.
It sounds good. I need to hear more about the attribute
question
thing, though.
For the community. Actually, I'm going to ask two questions.
Oh.
If you could buff any perk, what would you buff? And if you could cut any perk, what would you cut?
Okay. Well, you're already cutting the one that I would cut the most, which is the indestructible. I would probably remove some of the shirking buffs from heavy armor. They're really annoying to get if you go tower shield and you block primarily and aren't doing a lot of well-timed dodges. That could just be me though. And what perk would I buff? I would probably want to buff... That's a harder one. I'll have to think of... All right, well, this is a good video.
And with that, if you like what you saw, let us know, like and subscribe. Otherwise, see you in Aeternum.
Yeah, like and subscribe, guys, to me too. Me too. Helps us out. I'm going to head back to work. Hey, Knights, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. For more awesome content, catch me live on Twitch or follow me on Twitter. Just search Kniraven or visit Kniraven.com. Thanks for the support, and see you next time.